Hey guys, I have a question for you. How do you spread abundance? This year, Joe and I are spreading even more abundance by giving out insights on money, wealth strategies, and resources in our current newsletter, Creating Abundance in 52 Weeks, that we want to share with you for free. So sign up right now as you're listening to this episode on our website at www.abundantculture.co. That's .co/newsletter. www.abundantculture.co/newsletter. Don't let delay get in the way of your abundant year. Now, back to the episode. Welcome back to Abundant Culture Podcast,
where we dissect the mindsets and tactics of the true beasts of business.
People like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and Warren Buffett.
All to create a blueprint to experience life more abundantly. Hey everybody, it's Joe here. Welcome back to the Abundant Culture Podcast. We're so glad to have you back again this week. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is super, super important, especially with everything going on today with the coronavirus, businesses closing, the politics, and just everything going on right now. I feel like the world needs good leadership more than it ever has before. And today, we're going to be talking about leadership, how to become a better leader, what makes a good leader, how to instill leadership capabilities within your team. This is something that's going to be super important, whether you're an employee or a business owner. And today we're going to be talking about all of that and more on today's Abundant Culture Podcast. So get ready to listen to and learn from our good friend, Mick Carbo.
Hi, Mick, and thank you again for coming onto the Abundant Culture Podcast. We are super excited to have you today because I believe Hayden referred you, and he's been referring some great people onto the podcast. So we know you're going to do excellent. And before we get into all like the leadership talk, we have to ask you, like, what is the backstory? Like, how did you get into business?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. It's a long story, so if I start going on too long, just tell me to shut up or give me the, give me a little elbow in the screen or something. And thank you so much for having me, Joe and Jazz. This is a great opportunity for me, and I really appreciate your generosity and having me on the show. I've always known since I was a kid I wanted to own a business. And as a matter of fact, I wanted three things. I wanted to own a business, I wanted to be married, and I wanted to have a family. And in retrospect, it probably wasn't the best idea to do all three of those things right after graduating high school, but nonetheless, that's what I did. Actually married my high school sweetheart. We got married 3 months after graduating high school. We've been married for 22 years at this point, and we have three kids. They're 16, 18, and 20. Yeah. So it's been a crazy journey. Back when I was a kid, I didn't really know or care what kind of business that I had. I was just that, little guy who would always try to find a way to, make some extra money around the neighborhood, or I had my mom buy me the candy in bulk from the store and sold it around school to all of my friends. And so when I got out of high school, I started a flooring company. My brother-in-law actually owns a pretty good size ceramic tile and marble installation business here in around Baltimore, near where I live. So I went to work for him as a subcontractor for about a year, learn the trade, and I was able to at that point go out and get my own truck, my own tools, and start doing my own thing. And I subbed for him for a lot of years, and we did a lot of work through Home Depot, and we did some commercial work as well. And then I started going out and winning my own contracts and doing my own thing at the same time as I was working for him. And at one point had a few different crews working for us and everything. And the plan was for my wife to take care of the kids and sort of, take care of the household. And she would help me with the back end running of the business, like the bookkeeping and some interaction with customers and helping me keep everything straight, basically. Yeah. But she had a super hard job, taking care of the kids too. And it was my real primary job to do all the labor and all of that. So I did, but as you might imagine, as young people, and we bought a house pretty early, and starting a family, it was difficult times for us at some points. And I remember this one time that was playing with my son on the floor. He was I called it his console. He had this little toy he would sit in and like bounce around back and forth in, and had these little toys around it where you could spin around and play with the toys and whatnot. And it was really great. And there was a moment when the lights actually went out. The electricity bill, or the electricity was turned off because we weren't able to pay the bill. There was this moment, and it was like it was November or December. So here in Maryland where we live, it was starting to get cold a little bit. And there was this moment where I looked around in the dark, cold house and looked at my kid, and I was like, yeah, this is never going to happen ever again. So I actually picked up the phone and started making some phone calls and launched a marijuana selling business at that moment in time. And at first it was like, all right, I'll sell a little bit of weed and like, keep the lights on or whatever. With my entrepreneurial kind of nature, it sort of spiraled into somewhat of an empire over the course of the next couple of years. And I was building my tile business, and then I'd go to work and I'd come home and I'd eat some dinner and take a shower, and then I'd go out and I'd be selling weed. Things, like I said, kind of grew, and the inevitable happened. I find that, there's people in that industry, there's only really one of a couple of different scenarios that can happen. You either, get hurt or you go to jail, or, very small percentage of people, I guess, get out of the game or whatever. So I was not one of those people, despite my attempts. And back in October, actually, of 2007, I got arrested, and I had to do some time, and like lost all my money, lost my house, lost both businesses because I needed to be able to pass a background check to get into people's homes and stuff, working through Home Depot, and actually went into about $70,000 in credit card debt, paying for everything, like food, clothing, bills, everything. Life sucked at that point. It was horrible. I was super depressed, called myself every horrible name you could think of, and just really beat myself up pretty bad. But in retrospect, like looking backwards, it was really the best thing that ever happened to me, because it sort of launched me into a really deep journey of personal development and transformation. And I realized I couldn't do it all on my own, and I needed some support. So I started reading everything that I could get my hands on, fell in love with leadership and studying about that, and studying everything that I could about business, and got the support of mentors and coaches and everything. And it was an opportunity for me after a while, right? So then my wife and I bounced around from a couple of different, businesses, and then we ended up starting a jewelry business in 2011, where we bought and sold people's old unwanted jewelry, and we built this really cool kind of fundraising model around that, and ended up having about 15 employees working for us. And I hired a coach after a couple of months of starting that business, because I had screwed everything up pretty bad, a couple of months, or, a couple of years before that. And I figured a little support wouldn't hurt, right? So I hired this coach, and it was really great. It was a transformative process for me, and I learned a lot about myself and how to be a great leader. And by the end of that year working with him, he said to me, Mick, you have some pretty, good leadership and coaching abilities, and I would suggest that you actually go and get trained as a coach to, help grow the business. So I did, and I went and I took this really rigorous year-long, challenging coaches and leadership development training program, but really only to be a better leader and a better coach in my own business. But what I got from the program that I wasn't expecting was I really fell in love with this idea of being able to go out there and make a difference for people and other businesses and the people that work inside of those businesses. And earn a good living at the same time, build a good business for myself at the same time. So I went back to my wife, and she and I decided it would be cool for me to take a big step away and start building a coaching practice. And that's what I did. So that was 2013, and I've never looked back. I've built a really successful practice at working with clients I love. We work with blue collar businesses and construction and supporting industries like mining and excavating and heavy equipment and things like that. We love it. We just love working with the people in those businesses, and it makes a difference for people, and it makes me extremely happy to be able to do that.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And the thing about your journey is that what I find fascinating about it is you had these small leadership skills throughout your entire life, and like the one thing about the pattern that I see in your life is that you're a person that's willing to take action, whether it's the right or wrong action. But I do believe even wrong actions lead you to the right actions if you just keep going eventually.
Yeah.
And I really respect that about you, that resilience that it really takes to build all of this pretty much from the ground up. I mean, there's people who had more resources than you had at your disposal at one point in time, and they weren't able to build what you currently build now. So I really applaud you for really just coming through, not only for yourself, but your family as well. That's a very admirable trait that I feel like any leader could honestly look up to.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that, man. And I would just say that in my opinion, success is just a series of being willing to go out there and take risks and fail along the way as many times as it takes for you to learn what you need to learn to succeed. And that's what happened with me. And again, I don't know that I would have made the same decisions if I know what I know now. Yeah. But again, like I shared in my story, I look back and I'm super grateful for it and relate to it as the best thing that ever happened to me at this point. So
absolutely. Yeah. So in your opinion, I mean, you work with all of these blue collar companies. I mean, you started several businesses on your own. You've had to lead teams of people. In your opinion, what makes a good leader? Because I really do feel like in the times that we're in now in our country, especially even in our world, I think the world really needs good leadership. And I feel like it's something that you don't really learn very much in school. And some people are born with it, but there's certain people that are desire to learn what it really means to be a good leader. So in your opinion, what are those character traits in your opinion that makes a good leader?
Oh man, there's so many, but I think to really hone in on what I think is most important, it's the leader's willingness and ability to let go of their own ego.
Oh, wow.
To really make the team the heroes of the story, so to speak, and that they are just the guide for those people. It's the leader's job to figure out how to inspire and have their team members really be called forward to be on the mission with them, and really have like as much in it for them to be on that mission as the leader does, right? And that takes a lot. But I think, in my opinion, the tools that are most important for a leader are the ears and the mouth. A leader's listening and speaking, and as the old saying goes, that we should use them proportionately, right? We have two ears and one mouth, right? So yeah, I think that building relationships with team members is also the kind of inherent in what I'm saying. A leader needs to be able to get in and love and care for their people enough to listen to them and really get them, and learn how to speak and communicate with them so that they are heard as the leader also, and be willing to or able to communicate the vision in such a way that the team members, the people that they are leading, see what's in it for them, right? That I think that's in my jargony kind of vernacular, we call this enrollment. a leader's ability to have that sort of conversation with people, that they know what's in it for them to be on the mission and they're not just being told what to do.
Absolutely. I really like what you said about being able as a leader to really get your ego out of the way in order to make the team shine. Because I really do feel like in this age where we have social media, Facebook, Instagram, you know, everybody wants to look like a boss in life. They want to look like they're in charge, that, and I don't know if that's in order to cover up their own insecurities, or maybe it's to make, other people jealous. But I think there's a lot of ego in wanting to be a leader, as opposed to knowing what it actually takes to actually be a leader. And this is something that situations I found myself in tons of times, where it's like, it feels good to be in charge, but then when crap hits the fan and you need to inspire people, you need to, talk to people that you may disagree with on your team in a tactful, productive way. Those are the real tests of being a leader. And I feel like in those times, your ego will 100% screw it up if you don't know how to keep it intact. So I really, really like what you say about that. And I think it's one of the underrated things that a lot of people don't necessarily pay attention to when it comes to leadership, because they may look at somebody who's super confident and is a good leader, and they'll be like, oh, I want to be more like that person. But I think what a lot of people need to do is make sure that what they're giving off is true confidence and not ego masking itself as confidence. So, because the thing about it is, confidence brings everybody up, but ego will only bring you up by bringing somebody else down. So it's very, I think, beneficial for all leaders to know which one are they using in very crucial situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you look at my story that I told, I mean, that was a lot of ego. I got this on my own. Like, I don't need to go to college. I don't need to listen to my parents. I don't need anybody for anything. I can have my own business and, I'll be great. And obviously that didn't happen exactly the way that I thought it was going to happen, and
Yeah.
even after I got in trouble and lost everything like that, when I was at first starting to rebuild, I still had a lot of ego. It was still about me and getting back to where I was financially, and being able to have the lifestyle that I had, and to look good, to look like a successful person. And I can, now looking back, I can see that my journey has been one of like letting go of that ego and that selfishness over and over and over again. And I don't claim to be perfect now either. I think I've got a long way to go, and I don't think there is perfection that exists in the world, right? But
For sure.
it's a constant journey of learning what there is to let go of, and to be humble.
Absolutely.
So how do you increase like the team loyalty? I know that ego can definitely play a part in that. But like, are there any other ways that you can increase your team loyalty by, not just the ego part?
Well, I think the relationship is key. People don't leave companies, they don't leave products, they don't leave services. They leave people. They leave relationships that they have with their leaders and their coworkers, right?
Yep.
So I think it's about really getting in there and making sure that the people are heard, because you can find out what it would take to have somebody be loyal to you and your team and to the company by asking them.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very simple thing that I just said, but it's not always that easy.
Right.
Like you being willing to take feedback from your team as a leader is a way to build a strong foundation of relationship with them. The other thing that I would say is to really be clear, first and foremost, with the leader themselves, what the vision is of the business and or the organization, what the mission is, and what are the values that you stand for, and are the people actually connected to those values, right?
Absolutely.
Like I always say that, and I didn't make this up. I didn't make any of this stuff up. I'm just a listener and a practicer of, principles that I've found that work. So these
Absolutely.
aren't necessarily the right things, but these are things that I found work, right?
For sure.
And what I've found is that what you're really talking about is engagement, and in order for us as human beings to be fully engaged, there's a number of different things that go into that. It's physical. We need to be physically energized. We need to be mentally focused. We need to be emotionally connected, and we need to be also connected or aligned around and this is a spiritual principle, around a purpose that's greater than our own self-interest, right?
Absolutely.
So as a leader, like, you might not think in a business setting that your team's emotions or how they are as a physical part of their humanity or their mental focus and that spirituality component actually come into play, but it
Yeah.
100% does.
Absolutely.
We're all human beings. So as leaders, I think that we need to learn how to address the whole person, and that
Absolutely.
takes a lot of it takes time. It takes a lot of like consistent learning and practice and developing ourselves as a leader too. I think that's another thing that I would say to one of your other questions about what it takes to be a good leader, is to be a constant and everlasting learner, a growth
Absolutely.
minded person who is always willing to ask, am I doing this the most effective way possible, and what else is there for me to go and consider?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of that is extremely important, because I was just thinking about the importance of listening to your team. And like you said, it's a very simple thing to do, but it's not always simple in practice. It's not always that easy in practice.
Yeah.
It was a strange time in our company where, because of everything that's going on, we need to be even more engaging than we were previous, because previous we would, check up on our team kind of like, once a week or, twice a month, just to see how everything's going. And once a week or twice a month is definitely not enough right about now. And when you were saying that, it reminded me of something that our team asked for, and it was something that we totally just could not afford to give them at this moment.
Mm.
But then after we said, here's why we can't give that to you, we would like to, but we just can't right now. They ended it with saying, well, we just wanted to feel like we were heard.
Mm.
And that was something, it was complicated in the moment, because it was like there was emotion tied to them asking for something that we felt like they knew we couldn't give them. But at the same time, as the leader, we had to put our ego aside and our I guess frustrations, and really just see like, okay, you know, even though they did ask for this and we told them a long time ago we couldn't get that right now, it's still important that we make them feel that their words mean something, how they feel means something. And I think in the best companies in the world, I feel like everybody's emotions, everybody's opinion does matter at some point, especially in regards to the mission. So with all of this being said, in your opinion, how does a leader get training on sharpening these skills? So like, if I wanted to become a better tennis player, I practice tennis. If I wanted to become, a better driver, I practice driving. But nobody, I feel like, ever talks about the practice of being a leader. So in your opinion, is there a certain way that you can train this? And if so, what does that really look like for people?
So many things popping through my mind right now. There's a lot of really great leadership training out there. Is I guess the first thing that I would say, finding and with that being said, there's a lot of different modalities out there too, right? So I would say for a leader to go and find the next level of their own development, first and foremost, go find a training program and get into it. I'm always being trained every single week around my leadership. And I have been since 2013, and really before that, because that's the second thing that I would say is by reading and listening as much as we possibly can to, there's just a ton of books out there. There's a ton of podcasts out there that have really, brilliant people sharing of their heart about what it really takes to lead. So anything that you can get your hands on for that, and then find a program, find a program of leadership development and really commit to it. And like I said, be like a lifetime learner, because there's always something new to learn. And then the third thing that I would say is to go and practice it out in the world in a community other than your business.
Wow. Okay.
Go and see, I don't know how you guys grow your business, but if you're in a networking group, so to speak, there are networking organizations out there that are very, they're run like a business or a nonprofit organization board, where there are teams or board, board positions and stuff like that. Go get on a board at an organization like that, or look into the community to find a way of being of service. A nonprofit organization that needs volunteers to support, and just go and contribute to the community and find a leadership position in one of those organizations that you can go and contribute your gifts. And then the fourth thing I would say would be inside of your own business, or inside with your own team. Always be looking at what the next level is of mastery for the leader, and also for each sort of cog in the wheel, each member of the team, and just practice, try new things and say, hey, we're gonna do this process for the next 3 months or the next 6 months, and we're going to see how that works, and then we're going to take a step back and take a look at what worked and didn't work, and shift it, and then try something else. And that way you're sort of putting yourself to task and measuring it by what works instead of what feels good, or what it should look like from an egoic standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the idea about doing leadership activities outside of your business. I don't know, it's such a simple idea.
Yeah.
That you would just kind of overlook.
Yeah, but and also then you're being influenced by other leaders. Leader doesn't. This is another thing that I've come across in my journey, that leadership is not a position or a title. The best leaders develop other leaders.
Yeah.
Everybody I know you guys own a couple of coffee shops as part of your business. The barista or the person ringing up the coffee at the cash register, they are leaders. They have the ability to lead, and our job as leaders is to train and develop them through our leadership, right?
Absolutely.
And there's always something to learn, and another level of development. So when we're out there in the world contributing our leadership in let's say a nonprofit situation, well, we're surrounded by other leaders who are contributing to us, and we can just learn and grow and develop just exponentially by doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I really like how you brought it down to earth, and basically you said that everybody, has a chance to lead at some point in time. And I really like that, because in our company, we tell especially our baristas, that when you're talking to a customer, it doesn't matter who I am. It doesn't matter who Jasmine is. It doesn't matter who the franchise owner is. It does nothing else matters. You are the MVP in that situation, because you are the embodiment of the entire brand when you're talking and speaking with that customer. Mm-hmm. There's been plenty of times where people will say, oh, this coffee shop is so awesome. And they say that on an organizational level, but what they really meant was, oh, this barista who actually made me feel good today is so awesome. Yeah. Because you are the person who did that. The coffee shop can't do anything if you're not there to serve them. So it's so important that everybody at some point in time has a leadership role and responsibility, and something that they're accountable to and accountable for. Because I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like that's one of the things that make life really fun, knowing that no matter where you are, whether you're like, high level CEO that owns, millions of dollars of assets, or somebody who's a janitor, somewhere. I feel like it's important for everybody from the top to the bottom and everywhere in between to feel like they have some level of control and leadership in their environment, because I think that's what makes us all better people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
absolutely. I love that about you guys. That's it. That's so empowering for that barista, right? And it's why I love working in the blue collar type of industries, to really lift people up and to show that, like, that some of the people that we work with are ditch diggers, and that's an important job.
Yeah.
And there's leadership opportunity in digging a ditch, just like being a barista, or leading a multinational company.
Right. I always tell people, in my opinion, what you do as a job is less important as how you actually do that job.
Yep.
Because I've seen people do things that I absolutely would hate. Like, honestly, me and Jasmine, we have day and night skills. Like, her skills are way different from mine. Mine are way different from hers. But the enthusiasm and the passion that she puts into it makes me want to try it one day.
Yeah.
And then I try it and it doesn't turn out the same way. But it's still something where it inspires people. Like, the smallest job that you think, is not flashy, or it doesn't come with a nice title, or whatever the case may be, when you see somebody doing it at a level of excellence, you'll be like, wow, that seems enjoyable. Like, that they really make it seem enjoyable. And that's what I really love, like empowering people in whatever it is that you do. Like, you don't have to, have all this status, glamour, and, fame and money in order to have that feeling that comes with a job well done at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's so
Totally.
empowering.
So a question I had before we start wrapping it up is, when you're acting as a leader, where is that line at? Like, how do you know when you're giving either too much or you're not giving enough? Because, like, for example, today, our barista, there was a problem with the customer, and like in that moment, she chose to stand by her word and say, no, you're not getting a free drink. And then the customer eventually called me, and I'm like, man, well, guess we just gotta give them a free drink this time only. And it's like, how do you know when, like, should I give this person a free drink even though it was their fault? Or, should I stand on my word and what really makes sense?
Yeah. What a great question. And I don't know that there's actually a right answer to it. I would say the line is whether or not it works. Okay. And then additionally, that in order for you as a leader, right, or any leader, to know whether or not it works, we have to decide who we want to be. Like, who do we actually want to be as a leader? Who do we want to be as a business? Who do we want to be as the owner of something, right? And that will help us determine where to draw that line.
Absolutely.
Like in that situation, I'm not sure what I would have done. I would need to find out some of those questions that I just asked you to really think that through. And I think that the customer is always right. Like the old saying goes, is only right to a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think that you would need to kind of look at it on a case by case basis. If that person kept on coming back saying, hey, I need a free drink again, you might make a different decision, right? But
Absolutely.
in that moment, it's a tough call and it's a risk. And I think that's another quality that leaders have, is the willingness to choose in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, again, what I would say is to choose based on who you want to be and how you want to be um, related to by your customers, by your team, by the public eye, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, it's definitely important that you make a decision that later on that day, later on that week, or that month, you actually feel proud of standing by. Because I feel like a lot of times, like you said, there might not necessarily be a right or a wrong answer, but there's an answer that you may be proud of and one that you might not be,
Yep.
because sometimes you get a good outcome, but what you sacrifice in order to get that outcome doesn't feel worth it to you. So I think it matters, the what you should go with the answer that helps you to sleep at night, because I
Yeah.
feel like at the end of the day, you really have to be at peace with that.
Yeah.
So, starting to wrap it up so that we can respect your time, what is a number one takeaway that you would like for somebody to really get from this podcast episode about leadership, really?
Always be learning.
Always be learning. I like
Always be learning. Like, it's always be learning and be willing to take risks. Be
it.
willing to go out there and say, this is who I am, and this is who I'm becoming, and this is what I want to create. And to go and like give it your best shot, and then
Absolutely.
learn from every mistake along the way, learn from every choice that you made, learn from everything that works and doesn't work, and be a learner from everybody who's on your team. you know
Absolutely.
Listen, read, um, be trained, offer training, go
Yeah,
out there and be of service, but always be learning.
absolutely.
I love it. So you're on the Abundant Culture podcast, and we have to ask every guest that comes on this question. And the question is, how do you spread abundance, whether it's in your personal life or in your business life?
Oh man, all over the place. Well, I do all of these things that I'm talking about here. It's who I am. I do a lot of volunteering in my community. I give back to underserved youth in my community, and I contribute as much as I can, because I believe everybody deserves a chance, and everybody deserves an opportunity to have abundance.
Yes.
And that's just in my business. It's like the work that we do, it helps people live happier, more fulfilled lives. Okay,
Absolutely.
which gives people an abundant experience of life. And by doing that with a team full of people, right, inside of an organization, everybody working at their top, like optimal performance,
Yeah,
makes a company more productive and more profitable. So
absolutely.
our job is really creating abundance everywhere we go. It's a great
Awesome.
question. I
I
love that.
love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, you've given us so much valuable information, Mick. We're so glad we had you on this podcast. It's been a blast talking about leadership with you, and leadership at every single level, which is something that I feel like is totally underrated in this day and age. So, if somebody, let's say they have a company, or even they're employed in a company, and they feel like uh, they need training in leadership. They need help in their leadership for whatever reason. Maybe they're good and want to be great. Maybe they're not so good and just want to be better. How does that person get into contact with either you or your team to get help?
Yeah, thanks. Well, we do a mixture of training and coaching. So we have a leadership development training program that we can offer people. Again, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. There's lots of different places to learn about leadership, but I would just say give me a call. As you can probably tell, I love talking about this subject, and I could talk until I'm blue in the face about it. So I'm sure you all are going to post my phone number out there, and also look up carbocoaching.com. We just launched a new brand a couple of weeks ago, and I'm super pumped about it. I would love people to go and check out the website and let us know what you think. There's also an opportunity to schedule a call with me on that website. And LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn. I love practicing leadership and vulnerability and transparency on LinkedIn. So look me up there too.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So thank you again, Mick, for this amazing episode, because we need better leadership now, like more than ever. So this couldn't have been like a more perfect time to have this podcast with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jazz, and Joe too. You guys are awesome. I'm really inspired by you. You're young people, married couple, like co-owning a business together and leading teams together. It's so super cool. Me and my wife we're a few years into the game ahead of you guys, but it's just great to know like that people like you are out there and you're doing this type of work. So I appreciate you having me on the podcast today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for coming
so
on.
much.
So that's all we have for today, folks. I hope you got as much value out of this as we did. Keep in mind, the only way we can improve is through constructive feedback. So remember to rate and review this episode. Also, you are not the only person that needs to know this super valuable information. So be sure to subscribe and share as well. Stay tuned for the next episode. And remember to always spread abundance. Peace.